Good morning. Are we ready to go on the record? Thank you. Let's get started then. So we are here today for a quasi-judicial hearing for development application number MAJ 25-000036. I'm Suzanne Van Wyk. I'm an administrative law judge for the state of Florida. Today here acting in the capacity of special magistrate for the county to conduct the hearing. We will be conducting the hearings for the county, I hope indefinitely, but we have a contract in place to start performing this service for the county. I'd like to start with asking counsel to make their appearances for both the applicant and the county, whatever order you choose to go in.
Brooke Davis on behalf of the county.
Thank you.
Stephen Tatum on behalf of the applicant.
All right, thank you. Madam Court Reporter, did you need those names spelled? Yes, all right, if you would mind, just spell your names for the court reporter, please.
Brooke, B-R-O-O-K-E, last name Davis, D-A-V-I-S.
Stephen, S-T-E-P-H-E-N-P-A-T.
Thank you. The process we're going to follow today is really set out in the county's ordinance 25-07. I'm going to start with presentations by the applicant and the county. All testimony will be sworn and subject to cross-examination. Then we will open the public hearing portion. It's my understanding that the public is not required to sign in advance, so I'll just ask individuals to come up to the podium to speak. The county's use of the 3-minute timer is the process that we're going to follow. There are lights there on the podium. It's my understanding you'll start off with a green light. It'll go to yellow when you're at, 30 seconds? Oh, and when you got a minute left, yellow, and then the red when your time is over. My recommendation, I will be making a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners whether to approve the application itself, and if so, with any conditions. That decision will not be made today. I will have a written recommendation that will go to the board no more than 20 days from today's date. So that's the process we're going to follow. So let's get started then. Who is going to make a presentation first? Is it the applicant or the county?
Your Honor, the county will make the first presentation.
Okay.
So we can applicant.
Great. All right. You may call your first witness then.
Your Honor, at this time, the county would call Tim Brown to the stand.
All right, Mr. Brown, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you, and please state and spell your name for the record.
Yes, good morning. Tim Brown, T-I-M-B-R-O-W-N, with Walton County Planning and Development.
Mr. Brown, if you can take a minute and read the blurb that you prepared in preparation for today regarding this particular project.
Yes, East Nursery Road subdivision, request to approve by final order. Project number MAJ 25-00036 is being reviewed by myself. This is a major development order application submitted by Dewberry Engineering's Inc. on behalf of McAnna Robson LLC, requesting approval to develop a 53 single-family lot subdivision and associated infrastructure on 28.2 acres with the future land use of residential and a zoning category of neighborhood infill. Property is located in District 5 on the north side of East Nursery Road, west of Garden Lane Drive, and east of Indian Woman Road, and is identified by the parcel number 14-2 south-20-33,000-005-0000.
And I'm going to just interrupt for 1 second. Madam Court Reporter, how are we doing with that? Okay. We often read a lot faster than we speak, so I just want to make sure she's getting a good record.
Great. Mr. Brown, where do you work?
For Walton County Board of County Commissioners in the Planning and Development Department.
And what's your current job title there?
Senior Planner,
How long have you worked for the county?
almost 16 years.
Did you have previous planning experience before coming to the county?
Yes, I've been a planner for actually over 35 years.
Do you have any certifications in planning?
Yes, I'm a certified planner through the American Institute of Certified Planners since 1994.
Have you had any other roles while at the county besides working in planning?
No.
How often do you work with the comprehensive plan?
Pretty much every day when we're reviewing projects, we have to determine whether the project is consistent with our comprehensive plan
And the land development code?
and our land development code.
How often do you work with that?
Just about every day. I mean, I'm not doing project review every single day, but over the course of a week, it's multiple times per week that we're doing project review. And when we're doing that, we're reviewing for consistency with our comprehensive plan and our land development code.
Have you ever been asked to interpret the comprehensive plan or the LDC?
Yes, it's
Have-
typically not official, but yes, I do that.
Have you previously testified regarding the LDC and the comp plan?
No, I have not.
You've never testified?
Not in, well, not in this format, but yes, we do quasi judicial hearings before the county commission every month.
What about on other review boards?
Yes, I testify before the planning commission and the design review board if it's in the 331 scenic corridor.
Have you participated in updates to the LDC or the comp plan?
Yes, over the course of my 16 years with the county, I've did both.
Your Honor, at this time, we'd ask that Mr. Brown be qualified as an expert in planning as well as in the LDC and the comprehensive plan for Walton County.
All right, is there any objection? Okay, so accepted.
Mr. Brown, can you take a moment and explain to us the process for how a project would end up here today?
Yes, so the first step is a pre-application meeting with county staff. Then once they turn that project in, it goes to our technical review committee, which is county staff. From there, if it's a major development like this one, it goes before the planning commission for a recommendation. And then from there, typically it goes to the county commission for review. In this particular case, the county commission voted to send it to the special magistrate. So that's where we are today.
And at what point in this process do you prepare a staff report?
Prior to the technical review committee meeting, which when the project comes in, it's scheduled for the next available meeting.
Can you explain exactly what the technical review committee does?
So we're reviewing the project as submitted against our comprehensive plan and land development code. So we're reviewing it for compliance. We have multiple reviewers. I compile those comments into a staff report, and then that goes forward to the technical review committee meeting.
Were there any technical comments on this particular project?
Yes,
Have all those technical comments been addressed?
yes.
Is there anything you are concerned about with this project in terms of the comprehensive plan or the LDC?
No, county staff, we believe it's consistent with both.
Have you examined this project for compatibility?
Yes.
Can you take a minute as an AICP and explain the standard of planning for compatibility?
So our land development code outlines in chapter 2 what we should be reviewing in terms of compatibility. In infill, you have to do an analysis of a quarter-mile study area, and it outlines what you should be looking at. In infill, you also have to determine the density through your compatibility analysis, because the density is up to 8 units per acre, but it's based on the surrounding density within that quarter-mile study area.
Are there any presumptions as a planner that you have training to make when doing this analysis?
Yes, a planning rule of thumb is if the project's density is below the base density of the zoning category, it's presumed to be compatible.
So for this project, what would the base density be?
Infill is 2 units per acre,
And what's the density requested for this project?
1.88 units per acre.
Is there anything about this project that would cause you concern making that assumption that it's compatible?
No.
What does, no. So in your opinion, does this project meet compatibility?
Yes.
You said you prepared a staff report for this project.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd ask to move that staff report and its attachments into evidence.
Okay, can we give it a number or a letter just so the record will be clear about exhibits?
I'd like to move it as staff's Exhibit A.
All right. Is there any objection to staff's Exhibit A?
There's none, Your Honor. However,
Okay. 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 Okay, so we can avoid duplication. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to admit staff, or what I'm going to call County Exhibit A. And I'm going to note that that includes applicants, exhibits. Tell me, do you know the number?
it would be 1 through 10.
Okay, 1 through 10 at this time. All right, you may proceed.
So, Mr. Brown, after compiling all of the input from the reviewers, what was your conclusion on whether this project is compliant with the comprehensive plan of Walton County?
County staff, including myself, believe this project is consistent with our comprehensive plan and our land development code.
At this time, I have nothing further for Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Any cross-examination? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, at this time, we
Okay, great. Welcome.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the record, this is Stephen Tatum on behalf of the applicant McKenna Robson LLC. To begin with, because this is a little bit of a different process for us, if it's okay with Your Honor, I'm going to do a little bit of an opening statement.
Sure, go
Okay.
ahead.
Really, the point of this is just to kind of walk through some of the details of the project. So as previously stated, this is a development request to develop a 53-lot single-family subdivision located in neighborhood infill zoning district. It is on 28.2 acres. As Mr. Brown said, the neighborhood infill zoning districts allows up to 8 units per acre, showing that the density you're requesting is compatible with the area. So you obviously aren't necessarily entitled to the max 8 dwelling units per acre. Also, as Mr. Brown stated, we are at 1.88 dwelling units per acre, which is below the base density. The infrastructure, lots, landscaping for this particular project will encompass approximately 20 acres of the 28.2. That leaves roughly 8.2 acres of completely undisturbed land. That undisturbed land will either be wetlands, wetland buffers, mosquito ditch buffers, or required setbacks and buffers that are required by the Land Development Code in your typical setbacks and buffering sections. 6.04 acres of the disturbed area is in order to create the stormwater management facilities needed for this project. It is designed to the 100-year flood event because we are located in a flood zone. It's a numbered flood zone, A7, I believe. Our engineer can fill you in the details on that. We'll have a 10-foot landscape buffer along our southern boundary with Nursery Road. That's the only boundary that fronts on any roadway. On the north and west property lines, we'll have native vegetation that's at least 20 feet in depth. This is very thickly wooded lot right now, so that native vegetation that's left is going to provide a really good buffer for any adjacent neighbors. There are approximately 3.39 acres of wetlands on the northern portion of the property, and that is actually up closer to the bay. So at this point, we have no direct wetland impacts, but we do have a wetland buffer impact, I believe, for a crossing. Again, Mr. Pafunter, our engineer, can speak to that. As we talked about before, compatibility analysis is required for any project in a neighborhood infill zoning district. And neighborhood infill is a infill category, hence the name, that does allow some limited commercial uses also. Of course, we have no commercial use. Neighborhood commercial is the term. But we have no neighborhood commercial uses proposed in this project, nor would anything like that happen as long as the project goes forward as is. And nor would we believe that would be compatible with the area anyway, because the surrounding area is either vacant property or single-family residential uses. Which brings me to the definition of compatibility. The Walton County Land Development Code doesn't actually provide a definition for the word compatibility or compatible. It does, however, adopt the definitions found in 163. And 163.3164 defines compatibility as a condition in which land uses or conditions can coexist in relative proximity to each other in a stable fashion over time, such that no use or condition is unduly negatively impacted directly or indirectly by another condition. So as I said, this is a single-family subdivision with very low density, surrounded by either vacant residentially zoned property or developed property that is also single-family residential. I'm skipping some of this because Mr. Brown did such a good job introducing the information. It kind of does away with a lot of my notes. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we are requesting that we be allowed to develop the property in accordance with the Land Development Code and comprehensive plan. Staff has found that the project does meet those requirements. Our experts during their testimony will show you how we meet those requirements. And with that, I will close it and call my first witness.
You may proceed.
Richard Pafunter.
Thank you, Stephen.
If you would, please state your name and spell it for the court.
Richard Funtner, Richard. Last one's going to be hard. Pfuntner.
And I've been saying it wrong the entire time. I've been putting the P in there, and I apologize.
Nobody says it right. It's okay.
All right, Mr. Funtner, thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Richard, can you give us your educational background, please?
Yes, I studied civil engineering at Florida State University.
Okay. Do you hold any certifications?
Yes, I'm a licensed professional engineer by the Florida Board of Professional Engineers.
And tell me a little bit about your work history, please.
I'm a department manager with Dewberry Engineers, Inc. I've been there for over 7.5 years. I've done many projects, very similar in nature to this one, either smaller scale subdivisions or large scale subdivisions, master plan communities. Very familiar with this kind of development. Do many commercial developments as well. I do public projects as well, drainage studies, improvement projects. I also currently am reviewing for the city of Lynn Haven on their behalf for development order submittals for both drainage and grading plans as well for their development order approval process, and I'm on the technical review committee for that.
Very good, thank you. For this particular project, were you responsible for preparing and or overseeing the site plan and other, the stormwater management plan and other documents required by the county?
Yes, yep. I was the engineer of record and the design engineer for the stormwater plans, the site plans, the floodplain analysis, and then worked with other consultants on other aspects of the Walton County review.
And did you also, were you responsible for other regulatory permitting for this project?
Yes, yep. So other than securing the or working through the development order process in Walton County, you'll notice in your MAG inserts, there's already the ERP permit, which has been approved. We worked on that, so that's both the stormwater and the environmental permitting from the state there. We are also permitting this project through regional utilities for water and sewer. We are close to finishing up the permitting there. Next, we'll be moving into the FDP water and wastewater permitting for this project as well.
In your time as an engineer, have you had the opportunity to regularly review, approve, create ITE trip generations?
Yes, yep. So I have done IT trip generation utilizing the trip generation manual. This one, for example, is land code 210 for single family detached. Very familiar with the process of generating trip generation based on developments. I don't work specifically on drainage studies, so we brought traffic studies. So we brought a traffic engineer for this project, but I'm familiar with distributions of trips and how they affect roadway level of service and the analysis for that.
At this time, Your Honor, we would request that Mr. Funcher be accepted as an expert witness in civil engineering and review of traffic impact analysis.
All right, is there any objection?
Judge, if I can just, for 1 second,
Uh-huh.
do you have any certifications regarding engineering?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Florida.
And as a civil engineer?
Well, the way the Florida board is you are an engineer, but I specialize, my expertise is civil engineering, yes.
I don't have any objections.
Okay. And Mr. Tatum, one more time, he's being tendered as an expert in civil engineering and trip.
In review of ITE trip generations.
All right, so accepted.
All right, at this time, I'm just going to ask Mr. Funcher to walk you through a little presentation he has developed for this, and I think at any time you can.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to start out by pulling up the site plan just so everybody can see. I'm going to So as Mr. Tatum has discussed, this subdivision is located off East Nursery Road. It is 53 lots. The average lot dimensions are 55 by 115, which is 0.15 acres or 6,325 square feet on average. As you can see, located on the southeast of the property, bisecting the mosquito control ditch, are 2 stormwater management facilities, and the northwest corner is the third. There are 3 stormwater management facilities for this project. There are wet detention facilities. We have mosquito control ditches that run through the property. So during the Walton County technical review process, we were showing that we were maintaining a minimum 25-foot buffer off of those that's required per the Walton County LDC. And we had no issues during our review with the mosquito control district. We provide accesses on the east-west there for access to the mosquito control ditch. That was the only comment we got and request from the MCD review. The site is 28.20 acres. We have stormwater ponds, landscaping, and drainage features. As Mr. Tatum stated, there are 3.39 acres of wetlands on the north side. As you can see, the only impact in this area is something that is for the stormwater outfall, and it is 0.0026 acres of impact. This is already permitted through Northwest Florida Water Management District during the ERP process. I would like to state with that wetland impact there, it's a Florida statute. You can have dredge and fill within the wetlands for stormwater outfall solely, and it's not something you have to mitigate for because you're basically replacing it back to where they say the wetland will still function. The undisturbed uplands are over 5 acres. Going through with undisturbed uplands, all the buffers that we're maintaining. So Walton County does a great job in buffering your developments. So on the north side, you are required to have a 20-foot natural type A buffer as what it's specified as in the LDC. We are 96 feet from the northern corner of the pond to the property line and 249 feet from the northern extent of the road. So far exceeding the required buffer there. On the west side, you're required to have a 20-foot natural buffer. As you'll notice on the west side, there's also a mosquito control ditch. So we've already got to come off 25 foot from that. And then we've got a drainage swell in the back of the lots anyway. So we were actually 82 feet from the lot to the western property line. So we're exceeding the 20-foot natural buffer. And it's about probably 75 feet that's actually undisturbed. The eastern side, no buffer is required based on the LDC because of the zoning that's to the east. But we're providing more than 20 foot from the eastern property line to the lot. And also we have undisturbed, might not be as easy to be seen, but we have undisturbed area all through the east as well to buffer. That's not required.
And what is the zoning, Mr. Funtner, to the east?
To the east, Parks and Recreation and neighborhood infill as well. And then to the south, we have a 10-foot street frontage landscape provided per the LDC. We had a landscape plan provided by a licensed landscape architect. And then we have actually 20 feet from the right of way to the lot because we have 10 foot of landscape buffer. And then we also got 10 foot of drainage area that's going to be a swell that's going to drain to the stormwater management facilities for conveyance. Going through further into traffic, 53 lots would be 52 trips AM peak hour and 55 trips PM peak hour. And this is all based on the trip generation manual and with the land use code 210, single family detached housing. With less than 100 trips, Walton County requires a limited traffic impact analysis, which I believe is in a half-mile radius of the development. You have to analyze the roadway segments. The traffic engineer, in their analysis, which is in the MAG inserts, has all of the roadway segments and then the distribution of the trips to those roadway segments. And they found in their conclusions that the trips generated would not have a significant impact on the operation of access roadways and intersections. This traffic impact analysis was also included in the development order for review by Walton County staff and or consulting engineer. And in the review, you can also see that they stated that they agree with the TIA and they determined that the trip generated will not have significant impact on the operation of access roadways and or intersections. Floodplain. As Mr. Tatum stated before, and I'm going to throw up another exhibit that would be helpful for this. So as Mr. Tatum stated, the project is in a floodplain. The good thing, it is an established flood zone. So it being an AE, I believe it's 7 and 8 throughout the property. So with it being an established flood zone, there's different rules and requirements for Walton County's design criteria. So if it was an unestablished, an A, like an unnumbered A, we'd have to go through and do a flood study. But with it being established, that work is already done. What we had to design to is a 1-to-1 volume compensation. So meaning if you were to think about a bowl full of water with dirt in it and you start adding more dirt, it's going to spill over the top. But the 1-to-1 volume compensation says anything that you put in and fill, you have to take out as cut. So those ponds that are shown are not only for stormwater quality and flood abatement for the actual site, they're also for floodplain compensation. So if you look at the floodplain map, you'll notice the red is the area of fill, which is just the roadways and lots. And then the blue is all of the cut. And you'll notice the ponds are pretty large comparison to the site. That's to adequately compensate for the fill in the floodplain. We came up with 6,352 cubic yards of net cut for the site, that being 25,734 cubic yards of cut 18,382 cubic yards of fill was a 1.39 ratio, so exceeding the requirement for the floodplain compensation. Also, just to bring an important note here, so these wet detention ponds, the floodplain compensation was only taken from the existing elevation to the actual water surface elevation. So we're not taking into account anything lower than the water table. And all that was reviewed and approved. Also, for development in a floodplain, you have to have less than 1 foot average fill. We're at 0.60 feet. Throughout the process, this was all reviewed in the development order. It was approved, and all of our calculations have been provided previously. Environmental and stormwater components for the project. I want to read a excerpt from the ERP applicant handbook. It's section 5.2.1. So this project has wet detention ponds, and like I already stated, they're for water quality and flood abatements and also floodplain compensation. But from the applicant handbook, it states wet detention systems provide significant removal of both dissolved and suspended solids by taking advantage of physical, chemical, and biological processes within the pond. Wet detention systems offer an effective alternative for long-term control of water levels in the pond, provide predictable recovery storage volumes within the pond, and are easily maintained by the maintenance entity. In addition to providing good removal of pollutants from runoff, wet detention systems also provide other benefits such as flood detention, passive recreation, and aesthetic amenities. As previously stated, the wetland impacts only come from the stormwater outfall. We are meeting a 1-inch treatment over the entire drainage basin, which is the requirement within the LDC, Walton County, but also the ERP stormwater rule current. We provide 2-year, 24-hour SCS Type 3 attenuation for the pond that's on the southeast side, and the 100-year attenuation as well for Walton County's code of discharging to a mosquito control ditch. The ponds on the 2 northern sides are interconnected, and they outfall to the bay, so attenuation is not required. So also requirement in the LDC for wetlands. So like I stated before, we only have 0.0026 acres of impacts, but you have to have up to or less than 25% in the secondary wetland protection zone, which is a 25-foot offset from the wetland to preserve it. We're at 15.5%. So we're preserving the secondary wetland buffer zone. And also for the ERP permitting, you have to be less than 50% or you have to mitigate for it. And 15.5% is less than that. Drainage crossings, we have an 18-inch pipe that was modeled to the 25-year storm, exceeding the Walton County 10-year frequency storm for the access at East Nursery Road. And then we have a 24-inch pipe for the mosquito control ditch, analyzed at the 100-year, which is also exceeding the 10-year criteria in the LDC. Other than that, I would be open to answer any questions, if anything, or if anyone has anything else.
All right, let's find out if the county has questions for you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we'll stick with the correct order. Yes, if you have additional questions for your witness first.
Just a couple of little cleanup items. Richard, could you explain to the magistrate what the ITE is?
It's a traffic trip estimate based on the land use type. So if you're doing multifamily or if you're doing retail, you're going to have one anticipated trips based on, let's say, square footage. The ITE trip for single family attached, like I said, is land use code 210. It's based on the number of dwelling units.
Thank you. One last question. You mentioned the ERP applicant handbook in your presentation. Can you tell me what that is and who creates that?
Yeah, so the environmental resource permitting, it's guidelines. I want to say that there's a new set of rules that are coming into date in December, which are very similar to the previous ones, but it's the state guidelines that are pushed down to local municipalities for a baseline for stormwater abatements, so flood control, and then also for water quality aspects. So other than the flood zone compensation here. These stormwater ponds are critical for the development for treatment of stormwater runoff. So you've got, I believe it's an 80% reduction in suspended solids and a 60% nutrient removal by wet detention. So they're basically capturing the site stormwater runoff, going to these ponds where they're gonna, the stormwater is gonna be held. It's gonna be broken down. The nutrient stuff, everything's gonna be able to settle out. The chemical and biological process that are happening within the ponds help absorb nitrogen, phosphorus, other pollutants before it is discharged to the downstream area. So this downstream would be going to the bay.
All right, thank you. I have nothing further.
And Mr. Tatum, just to clarify for me, the exhibits that have been shown here today, these are just blow-ups of exhibits that have already been admitted?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, from the county.
I have no follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Tatum, do you have another witness?
I do, Your Honor.
I'll call Tina Ekblad to the stand. Tina, if you could, please state your name and spell it for the record.
Sure, it's Tina Ekblad. My last name is spelled Ekblad.
Thank you. Could you tell me
Hold
a
on
little?
just a minute. If you would please raise your right
Oh,
hand.
yes.
That's okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Now you may proceed,
right.
Mr. Tatum.
Tina, please tell us a little bit about your educational background.
Sure. I graduated from Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers twice. My first degree is a Bachelor of Arts, and my second is a Master's of Public Administration. Both of those had concentrations in environmental science and environmental policy.
And what certifications do you hold?
I am a certified planner by the American Institute of Certified Planners, and I received that in 2011.
What about your work history?
I started practicing planning in the state of Florida in 2006. My career started in the Southwest Florida area, and beginning in around 2012, I started coming up into the Panhandle and practicing in Walton, Okaloosa, and a little bit in Leon County.
And what job titles have you held in the past?
I started as a planning technician at Johnson Engineering in 2006. At the Village of Wellington, I was a staff planner in the Economic Development Office. I was the comprehensive planner for the town of Fort Myers Beach. And then for 10 years, I worked for a private multidisciplinary firm in Fort Myers where I started as an assistant planner. And at the time of my leaving, I was the president.
All right. And have you been called as an expert witness in the past on matters related to planning? Excuse me.
Yes. In Lee County, the city of Cape Coral, and Hillsborough County, they all use a hearing examiner or special magistrate process. I also have expert witness experience with the Department of Administrative Hearings and in circuit court.
Thank you. At this time, well, one more question, sorry. Have you had the opportunity to prepare compatibility analysis in the past?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to qualify her as an expert witness.
In what areas?
Oh, yes, great. Land use planning and compatibility analysis.
Any objection? All right. So accepted.
All right, Ms. Ekblad, I have one question for you before you get started. Have you had based on your knowledge, training, education, and experience, does this project meet the requirements of the Land Development Code and the Comp Plan?
Yes, it does.
And is it compatible with the surrounding area?
Yes, it is.
All right, this time I'm going to let Tina go into her presentation, and it is a PowerPoint presentation. So, all right,
Thank you.
Good morning. Anywhere?
And let me just ask that, Mr. Tatum, are you presenting this as a demonstrative, or do you want to introduce the PowerPoint?
No,
as an
it is a
exhibit?
demonstrative aid.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So the first few slides are more orientation, which you've already heard from Attorney Tatum and Engineer Perfunter, but there are a few items that I do want to go through beyond the total acreage of the property being 28.2 acres and the wetlands being 2.8 acres, this property is also included in a historical plat known as the Santa Rosa Plantation that was recorded in 1926. I mention that solely because the Walton County Comprehensive Plan in policy L1:11:3 does permit development of 1 unit per platted lot. It is, in my opinion, a little unclear as to exactly the number of lots on this property, but I wanted to note that there is an alternative that could be pursued beyond the subdivision today. However, given the history of that plat, I personally don't feel that it would be appropriate, as there's no requirement for stormwater management and other items that we would want to see in today's environment.
Just to clarify for me, you said it's unclear the number of lots. You mean in the approved plat, it's unclear?
Correct.
To you, okay,
Correct.
thank you.
And then the general location it's north of, Chat Holly Road and in between Indian Woman Road and Nellie Drive. And so I've gone ahead and marked those roads in yellow on this slide, just so you have a general orientation of where the property is and then how those roadways interconnect into the larger regional grid that is State Road 331 over the bridge in the corner there. Okay. And so just for background, Walton County does establish planning areas in addition to the future land use categories. So specifically, Objective L-1:1 establishes kind of the maximum residential densities and non-residential intensities. And then the implementing policies, specifically L-1.13 and L-1.14, promote this sort of planning area concept. There are 4 planning areas within the county, and this property is specifically within the South Walton planning community. And then with regard to future land use, there are a number of different categories. This particular property is subject to Objective L 1.4, and that objective states that the county shall encourage residential development in areas that constitute reasonably compact additions to urbanized areas surrounding municipalities and in areas transitioning from medium rural density toward a more suburban density. And I mention that because it is my professional opinion that that is what we are seeing here in the surrounding area. It's very consistent with that objective. And then specifically, under that objective, we have policy L-1.41, which is for the residential future land use. That future land use allows a maximum of up to 8 dwelling units an acre. You can secure 10 in specific zoning districts by conditional use. That zoning is not applicable to this property, so we're using that maximum of 8 as part of this presentation. And then just for note, if there were to be commercial development within this residential future land use category, it is permitted a maximum of 0.5 FAR and then a maximum impervious surface ratio of 0.6. The residential future land use is implemented by multiple zoning districts. What is most important to the presentation today is the residential preservation zoning. That was specifically established for existing subdivisions as of 1996. Walton County did not have a zoning map until 1996. At that point, there were multiple platted subdivisions, and so the county needed a way to memorialize those locations and that existing density, and so we have the residential preservation zoning district. And then the other that is applicable to this case is the neighborhood infill zoning district. That is what the subject property is. That zoning district allows a density range up to 8 units per acre, provided that the compatibility criteria in the LDC is met. And then also it is to promote infill in areas with existing subdivisions and/or developed properties, provided that there's central water and sewer. And you heard from our civil engineer that there is water and sewer available and it is being brought onto the site. So for the perspective of the neighborhood infill zoning, just to provide a little bit more detail, that is the intent as listed in the Walton County Land Development Code is to facilitate compatible development of unplatted or vacant parcels in areas where the majority of the adjacent or surrounding land has been developed. There is a notation about 10 contiguous acres or less. And I want to note that it has been the interpretation of the county that that is for new zoning, not necessarily like a rezoning, not necessarily for zoning that exists today. There is locational criteria that this zoning district will be assigned to areas of undeveloped, unplatted, or vacant parcels that are surrounded by existing development on 2 or more sides. I want to note that it says surrounding, not immediately adjacent to. And then again, that density range of up to 8 units to the acre with the compatibility, which in the Land Development Code is identified as special development standards. As Attorney Tatum noted, there are a multitude of permitted uses: single-family residential, multifamily, neighborhood commercial, professional office, and then parks and recreation are all permitted uses within this zoning district. So from the perspective of the case before you today, the single-family residential subdivision is a permitted use. The development order process is to effectuate those subdivision plans related to the infrastructure and the layout of the subdivision. And then just a note, because I haven't heard it yet, there is 60% open space on the property, and that's identified in green. This exhibit is attached to the compatibility analysis that is included in the packet. And so with that kind of framework of the comprehensive plan and the land development code in mind, we would start to evaluate what is appropriate for this site. And before we can do that from an engineering perspective, we again have to kind of take a step back and look at the comprehensive plan as a whole and what does it guide us to do. And the future land use element, the conservation element, and the transportation element together suggest that a clustered development pattern in a residential subdivision is more appropriate development than what I would describe as lots that are divided by legal description through sale. And part of that is because of the analysis that Richard was explaining regarding the floodplain. That is outlined specifically in policy L-1.11.7, and then it's implemented by LDC section 507, where the development pattern should be clustered to the maximum extent possible outside the flood zone. The flood zone needs to be protected to the extent possible. And I believe Mr. Funter's testimony demonstrates that we are consistent with this policy and section of the Land Development Code. The comprehensive plan within the conservation element then provides a number of policies, specifically C-1.13, which is then implemented by LDC section 505 to cluster the development on the most suitable parts of the site while avoiding environmentally sensitive areas. You heard our engineer's testimony regarding the fact that we are not impacting the wetland except for the outfall, though that is the environmentally sensitive area that is identified by the comprehensive plan and the land development code. And so you can see from the site plan that we have met the intent of this policy and the land development code by clustering that development pattern and reducing the impacts to the wetland, and also maintaining the full secondary wetland buffer as required. That wetland boundary is required to be determined by a site-specific field inspection. There is an environmental assessment within the packet demonstrating compliance with policy C-1.110 and LDC section 412. And then finally, we are encouraged to limit the disturbance of the natural topography. And again, the testimony of our civil engineer explains kind of how he designed that site to do that to the maximum extent possible, consistent with policy C-134 and LDC section 507. I'm kind of keeping with the stormwater management for just a minute. The comprehensive plan in policy C-131 does prohibit untreated stormwater runoff from draining into other water bodies or sensitive areas. And so this policy in itself truly does, beyond any other agency, require that central stormwater management system and that holding and treatment of the water before being pushed anywhere else. And then that's implemented by policy C-132 and LDC section 560, where the county requires development-based stormwater management. So again, that central system, The appropriate method is to submit that via a development order. That's where the engineering calculations are reviewed in relation to the floodplain, et cetera, as you heard the testimony from our civil engineer. And then finally, but also very important when we're considering this development in the surrounding area and the comparison to this site, the Land Development Code in section 563B17 does not permit stormwater management systems to be on or across proposed lots. So they must be central to the site. They must be held in common ownership and maintained by an association of sorts. They cannot be on individual platted lots. That is a departure from past county policy, and we'll be able to see that later on in the presentation in the surrounding area. And then finally, the conservation element in Objective C1 requires the protection and preservation of wetlands and directing development away from those wetland limits. We've generally talked about that already and demonstrated that the site plan is consistent with this objective. I want to note, because we've heard it in a number of other hearings on this particular case, that the comprehensive plan and the land development code does have language about the protection of natural communities. And that's in policy C173 and LDC section 452. However, the natural communities are very specific in both the comprehensive plan and the land development code, in that we're either talking about coastal protection zones, which are not applicable to this case, or high pine and scrub only. The environmental assessment provided demonstrates that there is no high pine and scrub on site. So there is no required preservation beyond the wetland preservation that we've already discussed. And then last but certainly not least, the site design as described by the civil engineer includes a number of characteristics which promote significant provision of open space. So the county's definition of open space includes recreation, resource protection, amenities, landscape buffers, playgrounds, water courses, et cetera. And so when we take that definition and apply it to the common areas of the property, we have 60% open space, which is in excess of the zoning district. I do want to note that that definition does include items that would be on the private lots, such as lawns, decorative plantings, walkways, and swimming pools. We obviously did not include that in the analysis because at this point that's not known, but the open space percentage based on the county's definition could increase once the development occurs and there are lawns, swimming pools, et cetera. Mr. Brown talked about the special development standards and compatibility in the land development code as it relates to the neighborhood infill zoning district, which is section 214G. He also alluded to the concept of this quarter-mile radius that we all utilize. That actually came from a 2015 departmental directive. That memo is attached to my compatibility analysis in the staff report exhibits. And that is what provides the additional guidance as to looking at not just adjacent properties, but also the surrounding area within a quarter mile, and then the consideration of developed and vacant properties within that area. And then finally, Attorney Tatum explained that since compatibility is not defined within the Walton County Land Development Code, we have considered the definition in Florida statute that basically suggests that the two land uses must exist without negative impact to each other. And so with that in mind, we start looking at the development in the surrounding area. Thank you, Richard, for putting up the exhibit that's also in the staff packet. I may point to that as we go. What you'll see in the aerial on the screen and then also in this exhibit is this area truly is one that is within transition and uniquely demonstrates the growth management policies that exist within the state across decades. So if we were to start in the southwest area, you'll see a defined signature of very small platted lots that relate to that Santa Rosa plantation lot and the town of Santa Rosa. That was recorded in 1905 and 1926, respectively. And so there's no requirement for wetland preservation. There's no requirement for stormwater management. We just see the standard block and lot pattern. And then if we go to the southeast, we have another pattern of development in the Driftwood Shores plat, which for your reference. And that was platted in 1973. Those lots are larger. For reference, the Santa Rosa Plantation and the town of Santa Rosa is 6,250 square feet in terms of the lot size, and that's approximately 6 dwelling units to the acre. The Driftwood Shores plat was recorded in 1973. Those lots are much larger. They're 22 to 25,000 square feet, but the density is 1.5 units per acre. And then you can see within the recorded subdivisions in the west and then also to the north, specifically the Indian Cove and Bay Shadow Estates, which are to the west, and Pine Trace and Bay Breeze to the north, that we have, again, have this kind of varying size in lots, which will cause a variation in density. So all of these subdivisions that I mentioned are within that residential future land use. That, again, that objective L14 identifies as being transitional in nature and going towards that more suburban density. The existing density of those subdivisions within that residential future land use ranges from 1.5 dwelling units to 6 dwelling units per acre. You can see that on this slide. Those subdivisions in pink were the ones that I was generally talking about through the last slide. And then we also have a limited area of conservation residential future land use, kind of in the purplish color here. That is implemented by multiple zoning districts. And the comprehensive plan identifies the conservation residential future land use in objective L13 as a category for residential subdivisions designed with a large component of land area set aside for open space, farmland, or habitat. And then policy L131 clarifies this objective that the development should be low density residential with the conservation of natural areas and connected open space being expected. But again, keep in mind that if we have lots established on these parcels, that these conservation areas and the conservation areas that are anticipated to be preserved must be held in that central ownership. And so you would still get that standard subdivision design where we're separating the residential lots from the preserved natural areas.
What's the maximum density allowed for conservation residential?
So it varies by the zoning district from 1 unit per 10 acres up to 2 units per acre. And I can explain that better on the next slide. And then also to the east of the property, we do have the Parks and Recreation future land use, which is to identify areas owned, operated, or leased by the county for active and passive recreation. The park immediately adjacent kind of has a mix of passive and active recreation in that location. So in response to your question about the density, we have 2 conservation residential zoning districts adjacent to the property. Immediately to the west, we have conservation residential, 1 unit per 2.5 acres. And then to the south, we have conservation residential, 2 units per 1 acre. And then if you keep going south, we flip back to that conservation residential 1 to 2.5. What I want to note, though, on the slide, it might be a little unclear, so I'll try to describe it geographically. At the intersection of East Nursery and Indian Woman are a number of lots within the conservation residential, 1 unit per 2.5 acres. They run from the intersection of East Nursery and Indian Woman north. So if I were to point out on this exhibit, those lots are all non-conforming with the development parameters of the zoning district. Rather than being 2.5 acres, they are 1/2 acre to 1 acre. And so again, we have kind of this density creep happening within the area. The conservation residential zoning districts, both of them are limited to single-family residential, parks and passive recreation, and conservation. And then the other zoning district that you can see in this graphic that is the bright yellow is the residential preservation, which is, again, that implementation of areas that were platted prior to 1996. The density is 1 unit per platted lot. So it can exceed what is anticipated by quite a bit due to the date of the plat or the approved development order. Generally, what we're seeing in this area and within the quarter mile, as described in the department directive, is that it ranges from half a unit to the acre to 6 units to the acre. And then last but not least, we do have neighborhood infill immediately adjacent to the property on the east and then within the surrounding area. And again, the intent of that zoning district is to facilitate compatible development within areas where a majority of the surrounding area has been developed. It's up to 8 units to the acre, and there's a number of permitted uses. And then single family, multifamily, professional office, and neighborhood commercial, again, are all permitted by right, provided those special development standards have been met. So again, we truly see an area here that is in transition with those older platted subdivisions with no wetland protection, no stormwater management, direct access to private roadways. The newer or recently platted subdivisions have that wetland protection as required. They have a central stormwater management system. I want to note that a single point of access to the roadway that abuts the development is the maximum permitted by the Land Development Code. That is section LDC 544B3A. And then where we have larger parcels that are unplatted, that are developed, it is anticipated by the conservation residential future land use that a residential subdivision could be developed. There is development potential under the density limitations in the comprehensive plan for these lots. Similarly, if the lot is unplatted and vacant, there is also development potential. One of the items within the department directive that needs to be considered is also the future density of parcels that are not developed. And that ranges in the area from 0.4 units to the acre up to 8, because we have that swing of that conservation residential 1 to 2.5 and the neighborhood infill up to 8. And the proposed development design is at the lower end of that standard. At 1.8 units per acre, the density of the proposed subdivision is significantly less than the maximum permitted of the neighborhood infill. And with the clustered site design, protecting those wetlands and providing that open space at the 60%, we're actually meeting the zoning requirements of the conservation residential zoning district of 2 units to 1 acre that exists south of the property. And so we truly have balanced the intensity that's allowed of the neighborhood infill zoning district with the actual on-the-ground parameters of the conservation residential zoning districts. So getting now to those development standards, this is the outlining text from the Land Development Code that demonstrates that we're required to show our compatibility. There are 5 different criteria that are listed within the Land Development Code under this section that are, again, more clearly defined, and additional advice is given in that department directive. But the first is that the development needs to complement the predominant features of the surrounding neighborhood as defined by building orientation, setback height, general building type, materials, architectural features. And then also that it complements the fundamental development pattern of the surrounding neighborhood, considering lot area, dimensions, configuration, and the pattern and spacing of lots. So at its core, this request is for a single-family subdivision in an area with existing single-family development. The size of the lots in the area swings wildly from less than or 6,000 square feet all the way up to some of the single family sites on non-platted lots are 2.5 to 5 to 10 acres. And so what we've done is propose a clustered pattern of development as required by the comprehensive plan that, yes, reduces the lot area to about 6,300 square feet, but again, provides that enhanced preservation of wetlands, open space. You heard the testimony regarding the increased setbacks, the maintenance of the native vegetation, which will promote buffering and screening from adjacent properties. And so we have considered the single-family development, the existing subdivisions, and provided a design that is consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code in consideration to those existing subdivisions. The building height is consistent with section 504 of the land development code, and it was testified to in the planning commission hearing that the units are anticipated to be approximately 2 stories, which is consistent with the surrounding area. While the internal roadway will be private, it does exceed the design standards of LDC section 543. And then again, I mentioned that single access point being the maximum that's allowed. The other development standards that are required to be considered relate to parking, service areas, outdoor storage, setbacks, buffering, fences, walls, and also that the proposed development will not create adverse impacts from noise, smoke, exhaust, dust, lighting, vibration, or odors. Due to the fact that this is residential, we would not anticipate smoke, dust, emissions, dust, odor, etc. to be an issue with this development. With specific regard to the parking, the Walton County Land Development Code now requires parking based on bedrooms and square footages. So we agree to be consistent with section 522. We would anticipate that if the unit has a garage, there would be 2 spaces within the garage. And then the setback, which I believe is 20 feet, would fit 2 spaces. So there's adequate parking on its face for the units, and then additional parking would have to be provided if for some reason we exceeded the 3 bedrooms of the land development code. You heard the testimony regarding the landscape buffers being provided consistent with LDC section 518. Many of those are proposed to maintain the existing native vegetation, which again promotes that enhanced screening and buffering. And then there was a lighting plan done. The only lighting that is anticipated beyond the standard single-family residential home is for the roadways for folks coming in and out at night. And that photometric plan does demonstrate that the lighting will not exceed the perimeter boundary of the property, so it will not impact any of the adjacent sites. And then finally, the amenities are located at the northwest section of the cul-de-sac, so they're central to the site. So those are not anticipated to be developed at this time. If they were constructed in the future, they're central to the site, so any additional lighting or noise would be buffered by the enhanced separation to the perimeter boundary, and then the buffers and such would provide some additional attenuation. So that does generally conclude my presentation. I want to note that it is my professional opinion that the appropriate application has been made for the requested single-family subdivision. The design meets the requirements of the comprehensive plan through its clustered design, protection of natural resources, provision of stormwater management, and controlled access to public roadways. The provided engineering plans also meet these technical requirements of the Walton County Land Development Code. The materials provided with the testimony today demonstrate substantial and competent evidence that the proposed development will not adversely affect surrounding properties, and it is consistent and compatible with the existing and anticipated single-family development in the adjacent and surrounding area. The protection of wetlands, the provision of stormwater management, the landscape buffers, and open areas provide 60% open space, which is not required by the neighborhood infill zoning. But as designed, these features promote, again, that enhanced separation screening of the proposed residential lots to the nearby existing residential development. And when combined with the requested density of 1.8 is significantly less than the allowed maximums in the neighborhood infill zoning district, and more consistent with the permitted maximums of the adjacent conservation residential 2-to-1. That concludes my comments. The team is here for questions, and I can tell Attorney Tatum has some cleanup for me already.
Mr. Tatum.
Thank you. Just 2 questions, actually. Just because it wasn't exactly clear during your presentation, our project, our property is not subject to policy L-1.3.1 conservation residential. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clean that up. And then can you tell us what the 2015 guidance on compatibility says about vacant lots or undeveloped lots?
if you let me look at it.
Yes.
Undeveloped platted parcels within the quarter-mile study area should only be reviewed for lot dimensions, area, and density. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. All right, questions from the county?
I think what Mr. Tatum asked is kind of on point to what you took a moment to point out two things that I just want to make sure that we're clear. So there was something with, you made a point of saying surrounding versus adjacent as far as facilitating compatibility. Can you explain how that interplays in this particular instance?
Yes, so the Land Development Code used the words adjacent in the special development standards, adjacent only. And then the department directive clarifies that it should be adjacent and surrounding within a quarter mile, because my interpretation of that directive is because there are vacant lots that were kind of skewing the analysis. And so it's appropriate for us to consider not just the immediately adjacent parcels, but everything within that quarter mile area, consistent with that directive.
Is that because you're saying that this is an area that is in transition?
Correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned something as far as 10 acres for, you say that was really for rezonings and neighborhood infill. I wasn't really clear how that.
Sure. The Land Development Code in the intent of neighborhood infill states that it will facilitate compatible development of unplatted or vacant parcels that total 10 contiguous acres or less within areas where the majority of the adjacent or surrounding land has been developed. That 10 acres has traditionally been interpreted to be a new rezoning request, not an existing property that is already zoned neighborhood infill.
How have you found that to be a typical policy? Is that something that you've seen multiple times through rezoning procedures, or just speaking with the department? How do you have that knowledge?
Just in coordinating with the department in my practice over the last, 6 years?
I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Anything to redirect, Mr. Tatum? All right, thank you, Ms. Ekblad.
One more, and this is actually to what Ms. Davis was just getting at. Stephen Schoen, can you come up to the stand, please? Or Schoen.
Let me ask the court reporter if she needs a break real quick. I can't see her because of this. Okay, all right, thank you. Are you gonna be asking him questions?
I will be
as well?
asking him questions,
Okay, if you
yes.
would please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, and please state and spell your name for the record.
Stephen Schoen, Stephen Schoen.
Thank you. You may proceed.
All right, Mr. Schoen, what is your position with the county?
I have currently two positions. I'm the interim planning director and the deputy director.
All right, thank you. This goes back to the question that Ms. Davis was just asking Ms. Ekblad. The 10-acre contiguous requirement under neighborhood infill, how has that traditionally been interpreted by the county?
As an existing zoning,
Yes.
that's how it would be interpreted. It would be held to the current requirements, restrictions, standards, and entitlements under that zoning.
So just for clarity, regardless of how many acres a particular parcel was, as long as it had neighborhood infill attached to it, that's the way a project on that property would be reviewed.
That's correct. The intent language would be specifically reviewed under a rezoning or other map amendment request.
Perfect. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did the county have any question for him? Okay, all right, thank you.
With that, Your Honor, I do have a housekeeping matter I need to take care of that I forgot at the beginning. Because we arrived before you in an odd route to get here, with this being a new procedure, we had to go before the BCC and asked for their permission to be heard by you because they had already continued us from one county commission meeting.
Okay.
During that, I told them, because there was a lot of people there to object to us and they wanted to have public comment get on the record, I told them that since I had a court reporter there with me that day, that I would move the transcript from that hearing into the record for this hearing. So I'm do that now. I only have one copy. I'll give it to the clerk. I don't know where the rest of my copies went. I had several. I do believe it's also in the InterGov portal. Okay, so I'm just gonna give this to the clerk. Do you have?
Yeah,
is
first
it
let's
being
ask if
exhibit?
there's an objection. Okay.
No, there's no objections. This was actually something that Mr. Tatum and I had actually discussed on Friday, that I know it was in InterGov, but I still want to make sure that we officially made it part of the record for today. So my suggestion would be, it would be applicant's exhibit number 1 to be added to the record.
And that's fine with me. We can
Okay.
do it that way.
All right, at this time then I will admit applicant's exhibit 1, which is a transcript of what hearing?
This is a transcript of the Board of County Commissioners, July 24th, 2025 land use hearing.
And I'm going to put the attorneys on the spot and ask you whether this is subject to a hearsay. Would it constitute hearsay in your opinion?
This is public comment, so it would constitute hearsay. It would be my answer to you. But it would just be admitted as part of the public comment section.
Okay,
I completely agree.
okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, I've got nothing further, except I would like to reserve time for rebuttal and be able to recall witnesses if needed. I feel the feeling we're probably going to have to do a little bit of that.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right. Let's do, does the county have anything else before we open the public hearing?
Not from the county. I know we do have one person appearing by Zoom that there was a request that this person be qualified as an expert. I'm not sure. I believe there was going to be somebody that was going to call them to testify. I don't believe she is present at this time. And I don't believe that she is anticipating appearing by Zoom to that regard either, based on the email that I received this morning from her.
Okay, so there was someone who's not a party, neither the applicant nor the county, who was planning to present an expert witness today?
That's correct. Ms. Landry, you may have seen in the correspondence that Ms. Landry included. My understanding was this was her expert that she was going to call to the stand to testify, but he lives in Tampa, and so the county and the applicant had agreed that he may appear by Zoom today.
I have no objection to his testimony. I may have objections after he testifies, but to him just testifying, and I'm not going to object to him being considered as an expert in land planning for that
Okay.
purpose. I don't know that there's anybody to qualify him, but just because this is an odd process and new for everyone, we'll make that concession.
Okay,
And the county would take the same position.
all right. So there's no one offering this testimony. So does this person wish to testify on his own behalf? I guess that's the question.
His name is Louis Cerna, if you would like to.
Okay.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Mr. Cerna. It's Judge Van Wyck. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to appear remotely.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Let me just
Yes, I'd like to
Hold on.
testify.
hold on, Mr.
possible-
Cerna. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, just hold on just a second. Okay. So
Okay.
I want to make sure for the record that we are closing the portion that is the presentations from both the applicant and the county. And yes, did you have something else you wanted to tell me?
Yes, that's correct. At this point, the county's portion, I believe I previously already closed that, and then Mr. Tatum,
That's correct with the reservation for rebuttal.
Right, right.
and then as far as Mr. Cerna's testimony, he is prepared to provide Your Honor with a copy of his driver's license, so that way he can be properly sworn.
Yes, so I just, for the record, then we're closing out the initial presentation by both the applicant and the county. I'm going to open now the public comment portion. And I have a question about Mr. Sarnat. We're going to take a break after his, to give both the court reporter and the clerk a chance to stretch their fingers. So, Mr. Sarnat, can you come on camera for me?
Yes. Let's
Thank
see if
you.
I can. Yeah, I don't know if it's giving me the ability to turn on my camera. Yeah, I have an audio control, but I don't see a video control.
When you joined the
Uh,
Zoom, it probably asked you, did you want to join with audio and video? And you may have said no to video. And so without having to exit and come back in, let me just ask if either the applicant or the county has an objection to testifying and not being on camera. I actually am familiar with Mr. Cerna myself. I do know who he is, but I don't have a way of saying that this particular person is him without seeing his face. So I just want to see if the parties actually have a concern.
I do not.
I don't have a concern either.
All right, Mr. Cerna, then are you planning to give testimony today as a member of the public in terms of public comment or as an expert of some sort?
Yes, I prepared a report for Margaret Landry, who's a resident or is an affected property owner.
Okay.
I'm not an affected owner, so I'd be presenting as an expert.
Okay, in what area would you want to be qualified as an expert?
Yes, as a land planner, and I can give you my qualifications and send you a resume if needed.
Okay. Yes, let's just hear about your education and training.
Yes, I'm a certified land planner since 1997. I have 35 years of experience in planning. 10 years I've worked in the public sector, including a county planning director. And yeah, I've worked on a variety. I'm familiar working for a county on implementing land development codes and comprehensive plans, and I'm also currently a planning consultant.
And when you said certified since 1997, do you mean you received AICP certification in 97?
Correct.
Okay. All right, was that it?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from either of the attorneys? Okay. All right, he's tendering himself as an expert in land planning. Is there any objection? Okay. All right, so accepted. And Mr. Cerna, you can proceed then with your testimony. Well, I guess is there an objection to me swearing him in without you being able to see him? I guess that's another question. So.
No, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Mr. Cerna, if you would please raise your right hand, even though I can't see it. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Right, thank you. You may proceed.
All right. Yeah, so I prepared an analysis of the applicant's compatibility analysis and application for Ms. Landry. I do have that written analysis, and I understand that Ms. Landry presented it to the county to be entered into the record. So just wanted to confirm that the county has that.
All right, let's find out. Is this analysis by Mr. Cerna something that has been provided for the hearing today?
It was something that had been provided for a prior hearing date. But I don't have it to be presented today from,
It sounds like a member
my
of the
packet.
public may actually have it. Would you recognize it if you saw it?
Dated August 19th, 2025.
I see the copy that I received from a member of the public. At this point, I see nothing that the county would object to as far as it being provided into the record.
Hold on. I think the court reporter can only record one person speaking at a time, and she can't hear this member of the public who's talking to you. So let's just make sure that we speak one person at a time and use the microphones.
It's attached to the staff report as an attachment. The
it
county
is?
did do that, so it's already in the record.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. All right. Mr. Cerna, it sounds like your report was already in the record when I admitted county's Exhibit 1, I believe it was, Exhibit A. So it is already in the record.
To be clear, it was admitted as public comment with the staff report as one
Okay.
of the attachments. So it
Okay.
was not as an exhibit. So,
But
just to be clear.
But is it an attachment to Exhibit A by
Yes.
the county? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Cerny, you may proceed.
Okay, yeah, so thank you. So basically, in my report, I just state that my concern with this as a planner is that the applicants have not demonstrated compliance with the county's requirements for compatibility with the neighborhood in which the project infills, which is a requirement of Section 2.02.14G of the Walton County Code of Ordinances. As you have heard in prior testimony, the county provides some direction in what is compatible by way of land development code, as well as the county's directive that was issued. I will briefly just go through some of my findings in that regard. I cite Section 2.02.14A, location criteria. The infill is to be assigned to areas of undeveloped, unplatted, or vacant parcels surrounded by existing development on 2 or more sides. Section 2.02.14G1, new development must show its compatibility with the neighborhood it infills, including the neighborhood's ultimate size, boundary, and center, and shall be functionally related to the existing pattern of development for that neighborhood, and be compatible with any existing development plan. The density and intensity of the proposed development must be compatible with the surrounding densities and intensities through comparable density or intensity or design. Section 2.02.14.G.1.A, that proposed structures for residential and non-residential development complement the predominant features of the surrounding neighborhood as defined by building orientation, building setbacks, building heights, and general building type, materials, structural features, and style. Section 2.02.14G1B states that proposed development complements the fundamental development pattern of surrounding neighborhood, considering lot area, lot dimension, lot configuration, as well as the pattern and spacing of lots and orientation of buildings. So those are land development code sections that I express concern with, and you'll hear testimony from the residents regarding complying with those sections. I'd also like to point to the county's directive, DD 215-01, dated April 20th, 2015. It just states when the subject properties do not meet the infill standards, and it further states in that memo that not meeting the infill standards means it's not developed on two sides, it states a potential skewing of the data in the compatibility analysis could occur. However, the 1,320-foot surrounding neighborhood review should still be done with the adjacent area analysis. In these cases where the subject property, infill property, do not meet the infill policy of the comp plan, including the compatibility analysis, but also address the undeveloped parcels in the study area. Specifically, address the size of the undeveloped parcels in terms of the percent they comprise of the surrounding neighborhood, whether they are in private or public ownership, and the designated land use. The analysis should consider the currently permitted development potential of the vacant parcels in relation to the assigned use. This additional analysis should provide clarity to the compatibility analysis. Undeveloped platted parcels in the 1,320-foot study area should only be reviewed for lot dimensions, lot area, and density. So basically, my finding is that the applicants have not done a comparison of all the parcels surrounding the property. They just really looked at the developed parcels. Adjacent to this site, there are some very large parcels, which I mentioned in my report, that are undeveloped, and these are immediately adjacent to the site. The applicant's analysis cites the Santa Rosa Plantation Company plat as evidence of compatibility. However, my findings are that plat basically divides this area into primarily parcels of 10 acres or larger. And again, that's not a demonstration of compatibility in my opinion. So according to the county's directive, in cases where infill districts applied to sites that are not developed on two sides, compatibility is determined by consideration of the existing and potential development of the undeveloped parcels within 1,320 feet of the proposed development. And note that none of the parcels immediately adjacent to the proposed East Nursery Road development are platted subdivisions. So on three sides of the subject property, I note, are three large undeveloped parcels that are zoned conservation residential. The maximum density in conservation residential is one dwelling unit per 2.5 acres. So immediately adjacent to the east and to the east of the subject property is a 5.82 acre undeveloped parcels zone neighborhood infill. Other parcels immediately adjacent to the site proposed for development are two parcels zoned residential preservation, both of which are 1.67 acres in size. Note additionally, within 1,320 feet of the proposed development are 25 parcels located along Joy Lane, which are zoned residential preservation. These lots are developed with single-family residences and range in size from 0.48 acres to 1.53 acres. My finding is that a compatibility analysis that is consistent with the county's regulations must consider both developed and undeveloped parcels within 1,320 feet of the proposed East Nursery Road subdivision, and additional weight should be granted to those parcels immediately adjacent to the proposed development. Note that the proposed subdivision includes a typical lot size, including, according to the applicant, of 0.15 acres. As noted above, the development potential of the parcels immediately adjacent to the proposed subdivision are 1 unit per 2.5 acres. And note that I've not included in my analysis the adjacent parcel that is zoned parks and recreation. So in conclusion, that my finding is that the applicant has not done a complete compatibility analysis that should include both vacant and platted subdivisions within the 1,320 feet of the subject parcel. And in my opinion, the analysis does not meet the requirements of Walton County.
Okay,
And that concludes the summary of my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
okay. Let's find out. Is it either the county or Mr. Tatum? It sounds like he has questions. We'll start with him.
Good morning, Mr. Cerna. This is Stephen Tatum, the attorney representing the applicant, since you can't see me.
Good morning.
Just to let you know. Just a couple of questions. I want to be clear. What you prepared for Ms. Landry was not actually a compatibility analysis that studied our proposed project. Rather, it was an analysis of our compatibility analysis. Is that correct?
Correct. I have not done a compatibility analysis.
Okay. And you just stated it on the record, and it's also in your document, that it's your opinion that the Santa Rosa Plantation plat created 10-acre lots. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, according to what I found recorded in Plat Book 2, page 4, those lots appear to be, there's no dimensions on that plat, mind you, but they appear to be, and I've provided the evidence in my finding in the analysis, they appear to be 10-acre parcels.
So in your opinion, there are no lots drawn on that plat? Just the blocks?
They're just blocks, yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything from the county?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Cerna, anything else in light of the questions you were asked?
No, nothing else.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's take a break. Let's take, it's 5 minutes? You need more? Okay, let's take 5 minutes and we'll reconvene. Thank you. No, I'm good. Thank you. Okay, let's get ready to go back on the record. Thank you. So there is no sign-in sheet, is my understanding, for public comment. So, is there? Go ahead.
Before we move into the public comment portion.
Oh, okay.
Since we did have some expert testimony in opposition, then the county would ask to provide a rebuttal witness at this time to that expert testimony.
Okay.
And
All right.
my understanding is the applicant has similar that he will ask to do after this. And I would
Okay,
like
so
to make
you
sure
want to do the rebuttal now and not wait until all of the public comment?
that would be the preference from the county.
Okay.
So that way we can close the evidentiary portion and open the public comment portion
Okay.
of the hearing. So.
All right.
I would like to make sure that we're clear for the record of the Mr. Cerna's analysis, how it was attached as a public comment portion of the staff report, but based on the stipulations of council earlier in the hearing that we're allowing that to be moved from public comment to an expert analysis.
Okay. You're saying that Mr. Tatum is requesting that? No, I didn't think so.
He provided expert testimony, and it was requested that analysis be recognized as expert analysis.
Okay, let's ask Mr. Cerna then if he could just state that for the record. So, Mr. Cerna, you're actually moving in your report, which we have already indicated is in the record, was attached to the staff report as public comment. You want to actually move that into the record today as your expert analysis.
Yes, please.
All right. And was there an objection? I think that's not on. Let's get that on the record.
No objection.
All right.
No objection from the county, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So accepted, and let's just call it expert.
Interveners,
Well, okay. I guess intervener's probably a good enough way to designate it. I'm not really sure.
Can we just say opposition exhibit A or something like that?
Okay. All right. Mr.
than calling it
Cerna, opposition exhibit 1. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So admitted. Thank you.
at this time, I'd like to request Stephen Schoen to the witness stand.
All right. Mr. Schoen, I'll just remind you that you remain under oath and you may proceed.
Yes, ma'am.
Schoen, again, you are the interim director for the county's planning department.
That's correct.
And are you familiar with, in Mr. Cerna's discussion, he included a discussion of a previous determination DD 215-01?
I've read it.
So you're familiar with that analysis?
His analysis or the director's determination?
The
Or both?
director's determination.
I am, yes.
So, has there been any guidance from the county since 2015 on the information contained in that termination?
It is my understanding that during the 2018 timeframe, we made changes to the Land Development Code that reflected some of the guidance in that instrument, as well as the current neighborhood infill standards at the time, to what we utilize now.
So, in your opinion, is DD 215-01 still an active determination utilized by the county?
No.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay.
I have no questions for Mr. Schoen, and I would like to say that I do have a rebuttal to Mr. Cerna, but I believe I'm going to save it to the end in the interest of
Okay.
time.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to move now to the public comment portion. We're going to open public comment. Again, as I said, it's my understanding there isn't a sign-in sheet, so there's not a sheet for me to call people up from. I'm just going to ask people to come on up, come to the podium. Yes, sir? Yeah, well, there's somebody who was on his way already. Come on up, sir. Yes. Come on up. And I'm just going to ask you when you arrive at the podium, there is no sign-up sheet. That's what I was saying. Do you want to speak?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Okay, great. All right. What I
thank
need you to do is to state your name and spell it for the record, please.
My name is Alfred Sanders, and I have a piece of property within quarter mile. It's exactly across the street from this property.
All right, Mr. Sanders, spell your name for the court reporter,
Alfred,
please.
Alfred, Sanders, Sanders.
Thank you.
Can I start my time now, please?
I'm not in control of that. Let's see if we're going to start it
I
again.
just
for you
came up,
now.
I just appeared in the front.
Okay,
and I haven't
it's
spoken
starting.
yet.
It's starting. Go ahead.
I bought a piece of property that was submitted to the Walton County, and this was about 2005 when it was submitted. After going through about a year's process, they determined that we were could only have a 2 per acre piece of property, and so that's what it is. It's across the street within a quarter mile of the property. They wouldn't allow anything else. What they're asking for today, I'm just giving you the facts. I'm not objecting to anything else, except that I did talk to Mr. Funter, and he promised me that they would have a fence put up in front of the property. Because if you look at it, I filed it with the area, and here's some, the company that's handling this matter right now, Trayton of Florida, they have things like this, and I filed them in the record to show different ways that you could do it. But what I did file also in that same deal, that if it was allowed that anybody could have what they call a subdivision based on not having a fence in this particular case, because if you look at this particular case and you come into the property and you go either right or left, if you go left, you're looking at the road without any fence. So a fence, if it was not presented like all other places that have happened with their own fences, then it would be a disgrace to this community. Just for someone to be able to have 20 feet and then come up and go out the front of it without a fence. That's my suggestion to it.
Okay.
And I'm asking that it be taken into full consideration by Walton County. And I thank you for my time, and I'm going to get out of y'all's building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Well, love you all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Fred Trickard, Fred Tricker, and I'm going to need probably more than 3 minutes, a little more. I've got quite a bit I want to say. And so I either would like to be qualified as an expert witness or as a member of South Walton Community Council, and under county meeting procedures, representing an organization like that, I can get up to 10 minutes. I'm not going to need 10 minutes, but I'll need more than 3.
Let's hear what the county has to say, and we'll start it over.
Your Honor, I think I'll allow Mr. Tatum to say any objections as to far as whether Mr. Tricker's an expert and to those regards. But I want to make clear for the record, Mr. Tricker, until very recently, was on our planning commission, actually participated in the vote for planning commission for this particular project. In fact, Mr. Tricker is the one that made the motion to deny or to recommend denial to the reviewing board, which would be Your Honor. So I want to make that clear before we move forward.
Okay.
That's
All
what
right.
that's what makes me an expert.
All right, so at this time, we've got, this is the time for public comment. It's not for expert witness testimony,
Okay.
okay? So, Mr. Tricker, I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and make your public comments. They've restarted you for 3 minutes. Let's try to see what you can do in 3 minutes, because there's a lot of other people waiting.
Okay. All right. So clearly in this project, compatibility is the key issue. There's no question in my mind. And it wasn't any different from the Planning Commission meeting, which we held back in May. And I was on the board. I was sitting right next to your chair there. And I voted against the project based on compatibility. And specifically because it did not address the requirements of the Director Determination 2015-01, which I understood the planning was no longer using, but for years, that was the standard for it's not the standard for compatibility. It's the standard for determining what had to go in compatibility analysis in a situation where neighborhood infill makes assumptions about the size of the lot and surrounding development. In a lot of cases, those don't exist. Those conditions don't exist. So how do you do a compatibility analysis? The Director Determination addressed that, and it was designed specifically to address the type of application that you're looking at today. And so Planning Commission, like I say, heard it in May. And shortly after that, Mr. Cerna supplied what he called a planning analysis, which said that it wasn't compliant with the requirements. But I don't know if that ever got into the record, and I don't know if it matters. But the fact is that shortly after that, on June 19th, on July 16th, Ms. Ekblad put out another analysis, which was replacing, I guess, the original analysis that had been blown up at the Planning Commission. And in that analysis, she uses the Director Determination, which is not supposed to be applicable anymore, but evidently it is. So that says to me that there's a disconnect here. And then after that, Mr. Cerna put out his analysis on August 19th. Wow, that's disconcerting right there.
It goes by fast, doesn't it? Mr. Tricker, do you have a friend in the audience who might want to lend you their time? Okay, we've got a friend who's going to give you another 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I'd like to know who that was. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. The whole thing is really bothersome to me that the Planning Commission's never heard the Ekblad report. They've never heard the Cerner report. The Cerner report was never seriously taken into consideration by the Planning Department. So you've got two reports here that are conflicting, both by certified professionals. Who are you going to believe? The next question is, who are the gatekeepers? Who are the people that you should be able to rely on to analyze situations like this and determine what the truth is? And that hasn't been done. The planning department has a responsibility to make sure that anything that comes before the board is strictly compatible with the comprehensive plan and the land development code. They never considered the Cerner report. They didn't take it seriously. They've never reported on it. The staff report for this meeting says nothing about compatibility, doesn't even address it, and certainly doesn't acknowledge the existence of an opposing report. There's something wrong with that. There's something seriously wrong with it. The key issue in an important project is lacking analysis by the county. So you say, okay, who's the other gatekeeper? The other gatekeeper is the Planning Commission. Well, guess what? The Planning Commission has only heard the first report, which obviously was defective because the applicant did a supplemental analysis. So, which was pretty clever, actually, to do it after the fact. So the Planning Commission's never had the opportunity to review these competing documents. So I think, that's one of the options that you have, is you can kick it back. You can remand it back to the Planning Commission, give them an opportunity to review that data. It's crucial. The other thing I'd like to say is that in terms of competent and substantial evidence, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. I have never, ever seen a compatibility analysis paid for by a developer that said anything other than the project is compatible, ever. They're paid to say that. That's the starting point when they do their analysis. On the other hand, I know Mr. Cerna as well, and I've worked with him, and I find him to be very credible. And I believe if it was up to me, I would go with the Cerna report rather than the applicants. But the other issue too.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tricker. All right, next.
Your Honor, I have some photos I'd like to pass up to you, if I may.
Is there an objection from either party? Perhaps they'd like to see them first? Okay.
Sure.
And while you're waiting, go ahead and state and spell your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Andre, A-N-D-R-E. Last name is Raymond, R-A-Y-M-O-N-D.
Okay.
I took those, yes.
I don't have any objection.
All right.
Can I reserve my objection until after we see what he's using them for?
Sure,
Okay.
sure, that's fine. All right, Mr. Raymond, go ahead. You can bring them up to me. And then somebody that I will need to get these to the clerk though, because I'm not keeping these for the record.
Yes, ma'am, that's
Okay.
fine. I've passed those photos, larger ones, though, to the county commission, so
Okay.
they do have those. in their
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started.
Your Honor, the definition of land use compatibility appears to have a rather nebulous description and open to debate. There's a legal description, and then there is the I know it when I see it. Our community knows clear cutting is inconsistent with the established community that surrounds and is adjacent to this proposed development. Our county commissioners know full well this development plan is not in the community's best interest. Otherwise, they would have not walked out during community comment or been absent from the BBC meetings to avoid making a decision and booting this to your court. This project, if approved, will expose over 300 foot of my 2.5 acre property to clear cutting. And that may open the door to small lot clustered housing, which more than likely would become rental properties practically in my yard.
Mr. Raymond, where is your property in relation
It's
to this subject?
adjacent to the proposed development. I'm on the east side.
On the east side, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And that may open the door to smaller lot clustered housing, which more than likely would become rental properties practically in my yard. That would negatively impact the value of my property. We property owners are established long-term residents who have an expectation that our property values and our established community standards will be maintained even though our homes are zoned infill. The zoning designation was and is inappropriate and has been indiscriminately applied to our area. The impact of clear cutting and clustered housing and developing rental properties will lead to a degradation of the community. The trickle-down effect of this project will have a devastating impact on our established community standards. The wetlands will be put to risk, the natural landscape destroyed, and there will be a loss of privacy. Our sense of place won't be the same. We have built on large tree-lined lots of mostly half acre or more, not the 6,000 square foot lots that Trayton Homes proposes. They say clear cutting and clustered building is the only economic way to develop the property and make a profit. That's not true. So Trayton Homes' plan is to make a profit at the community expense. We will be the ones burdened with the effects of this development after Trayton's responsibilities are long gone. Our property values are not based solely on our homes, but on location, the local environment, and to a certain degree prestige. This proposed development does nothing to enhance Walton County or our community. I adamantly oppose this project. Your Honor, please consider the issue of parking overflow. Cars are randomly parked along the roadside on both sides of Nellie and 393. The Kellogg Park adjacent to this proposed subdivision will most likely become a parking lot for overflow because of inadequate parking, just as it is occurring along the identified roads. Your Honor, the profit motive for this development is on full display. Your decision will measure how much value is placed on our existing community and way of life.
All right, and the photos that you've handed me, are some of these photos of the park that you're referring to?
No, ma'am.
Okay, tell me what I'm looking at.
All right, what you're looking at are the homes that are adjacent to one another, starting with my home and two other homes.
Okay.
The Kellogg Park is directly south of my property. It borders my property. So Trayton Homes development, is to the west of my property, and the Kellogg property is directly behind me. So I'm wedged in on two sides. Furthermore, Your Honor, when that infill designation was placed, it was inappropriate. There was no development around our area. Nothing. We had dirt roads.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just
Your
going to
Honor.
ask the clerk's office when you get a minute, we'll make sure that these get into the record for the public comment section. Yes, we've got one walking up, and then you can be next. How about that?
Got a bolt after this, so thank you.
All right, start with your name, state and spell your name.
Sure, it's Mandy Cooper. I live at 1075 East Nursery Road.
And Mandy, spell your
Mandy,
name.
M-A-N-D-Y. It's actually Amanda, but nobody calls me that. Okay. My name is Mandy. I'm a 24-year-old resident, and I've lived on East Nursery Road since 2017. I live directly next door to the Ragsdales, which they left in the middle of the night due to flooding, just from a random storm. That's probably in your notes from our last meeting. As their home was flooded, they built their new home on pilings. My family and I, on the other hand, live on a home base at base elevation. His story is terrifying to me, leaving in the middle of the night, but I have seen firsthand how that our area is so prone to flood and heavy rains. You continue to take away our stormwater protection by clear cutting these mature trees in these environmentally sensitive areas, and you're literally flooding us out of our homes. I'm also a local real estate agent. I have been in this area for over 20 years. I make a living on developed properties, so I understand the process, I understand all of this. I can understand why Trayton is requesting to put 53 homes on that parcel, and it's because it's the only way this deal makes any sense for him to buy it. They can't work with us by putting fewer homes on this parcel because they're paying too much for the land. Also, I understand that you're probably going to hear from a lot of other people that are not a lot, a handful of other people that are in favor of this passing. And those guys also, I would implore you to ask, how large is their parcel? How is it zoned? Where are you headed to next? Because they'll be right up here next, try to get some kind of rezoning or doing exactly what they're doing because it's big money in it, and I get it. The people here that are opposing it are people that live here. You know, we're raising our families here. We bought these, according to the zoning, and you're clear cutting trees that already flood my yard. I mean, I'm not far at all, and especially these guys. I mean, big storms come in and they really flood you. And I'd also implore them to think about, the bayfront properties and neighborhoods generally have more responsible planning and no clear cutting. Estuary, Seclusion Bay, which is right around the corner, Churchill Oaks, they all have preservation requirements, which is not something that I see in their plan. It's important for the bayfront areas to keep mature vegetation and trees to help from potential flooding, again, because we're environmentally sensitive. This is simply not compatible, and it does not complement the surrounding area. Also, I'd like to point out the elephant in the room, that these cookie cutter, postage stamp, lot size neighborhoods that are taking over the area are just not selling. Now they're leasing them. This development will negatively affect the environment and the neighborhood. I implore you to come together with a plan that works for everyone. While I understand that the highest and best use of this property to the applicant would be to put as many homes as you can on it, but that is not the highest and best use for the rest of the neighborhood or even Walton County. If you approve this one, there'll be 10 others right behind it demanding to get the same thing, and my kids and I will be the next ones leaving in the middle of the night because we're getting flooded out.
Thank you. There was a woman here who had her hand raised. Do you want to come up next? Welcome.
My name is Debbie Townsend, Townsend.
Are you an IE or a Y?
IE.
Thank you.
I live adjacent to this property, right next to Andre Raymond. And we have zoned neighborhood infill as well. I live in that 1 acre parcel that has kept most of the mature trees and vegetation, however. It's my backyard, we have at least 12 big oak trees, hickory trees, all in the front yard on the bay. And this is helps with this mature vegetation, keeps helping with the soaking up of the stormwater and gives us wind protection as well. I know we didn't have to do that, and that whoever had it before us didn't have to do that, but it makes sense. It just does. I feel this project as planned does not fit at all into the character of the neighborhood. Like they said, they're not necessarily cookie cutter, but there are so many of them in so small lots that it does look like a cookie cutter neighborhood, and it will have a negative impact on my property, my neighbor's property, and the character of that whole area. I would love for you to drive down Nursery and see what is there and imagine what that will look like. That would be a big help for you, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you. We got somebody standing in the back. If you guys want to go ahead and start queuing up, you're welcome to do that, so I don't have to call on people by hand raised.
It's Timothy Acero, Timothyasaro. Just want to say good afternoon, Your Honor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I live very close to the property where the subdivision is being proposed, and I'm here because of the serious and measurable impacts it will have on our neighborhood. The applicant claims that this project is consistent with the neighborhood, but that is not accurate. The north side of Nursery Road is made up of single-family homes on large wooded lots By contrast, this proposal seeks to clear-cut 19 acres and place 53 homes on small parcels. For context, there aren't even 53 homes along the north side of Nursery Road over there today. It's going to more than double that capacity. And those that do exist sit on spacious, tree-covered properties. This proposed subdivision is not a compatible land use, nor does it meet with the compatibility standard. The Florida compatibility statute requires that land uses can coexist in proximity without undue negative impact. Here, the negative impacts are clear. The site sits on very shallow surface level water table, and the mature vegetation on site currently provides vital hydrological protection. Right now, based on the water absorption rate and the density of the existing vegetation, the 19 acres of trees and palmettos absorb and evaporate over 200,000 gallons of groundwater per acre per day, the equivalent of more than 2 inches of water being removed every single day. If the property is allowed to be clear-cut, that natural function will disappear and the water will remain on the surface, overwhelming the improperly calculated stormwater DRAs, which the civil engineer deliberately used incorrect deep water table assumptions when the soil boring logs clearly show shallow water table currently exists. And that's with the vegetation pumping out more than a whopping 3 million gallons of water every single day from the soil. This poses a direct risk to the public safety and property. Any drainage ponds that are constructed here will be saturated from the start and prone to overflow, leaving the surrounding community to bear the burden of the increased flooding. Beyond flooding, this project offers no public benefit. There is no accompanying infrastructure to support the doubling of density, no road improvements, no assurances on vacation rental restrictions. Approval here would not only harm the existing residents, but it would also set a precedent. Developers would use this as a new baseline for compatibility, making it nearly impossible to protect the surrounding area from further incompatible development. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the court to find that this subdivision is inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood, incompatible under the statute, and harmful to the public interest. For what it's worth, I'm not just a neighbor, I hold the highest building license in the state of Florida. I have developed countless properties in Florida and around the country, and I've reviewed the stormwater runoff plan, the soil boring logs, and I've met with the project engineers about their DRA deficiencies. I just want to say thank you, Your Honor, for your help in upholding the law in this case, and now allowing selective compatibility and deliberately incorrect flood calculations to weasel its way through and permanently damage an entire community for the sole purpose of massively enriching a few greedy people.
Thank you, Mr. Asaro.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Morano, Morano. Your Honor, I'm a board member of South Walton Community Council. You're new to Walton County, and we welcome you. This is the first time with this type of organization that we're facing as citizens. Our South Walton Community Council works to preserve the environment and the quality of life since 1995. What I'm going to say is because this process is so new, and this is the first time, competent, substantial evidence is a question. Citizens are feeling a burden right now to have quote-unquote expert witnesses. Proponents like to say that the requirement for competent and substantive evidence means that the witness must be an expert with professional credentials. But we feel this is not true. Anyone with credible and relevant evidence can provide meaningful testimony, and that's what you're hearing today, quote unquote, under public comments, but these citizens live near this development. They live, they breathe, they drive through here, they are experts. Written comment on this project, along with public comments at all levels, technical review, planning commission, and the BCC, has been substantial and reflects a deep understanding of impact on the affecting neighborhood, and that is in your package of all the public comments. Opponent public comment, especially when related to compatibility, should carry significant weight, especially when the developer's report cannot be relied on at times. And again, Your Honor, we appreciate your kindness of allowing Fred to speak a little bit more than usual, and I appreciate how you are conducting this. I just want to say that this is a burden that the citizens are now feeling with this extra quote-unquote expert witness. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morano.
My name is Lisa Gregory, Gregory. I live 4 properties to the east of this proposed development on an 1.5 acres on Garden Lane Drive. I am within a 1/4 mile of this project. My property and my neighbors are not in transition. The cluster design of this project is not compatible with our neighborhood or the surrounding environment and does not complement anything on Garden Lane Drive or the existing homes on East Nursery. I think Mr. Serena's analysis and opinion should be considered, as the residents really, as Ms. Moreno said, do not seem to have the opportunity to have professionals speak on their behalf. I agree with the Planning Committee's decision to deny this project as currently proposed, and we hope that you will uphold their decision.
Thank you, Ms. Gregory. Is there another speaker? Go ahead, come on up. Do so safely.
My name is Michelle, Michelle, Robeson, Robeson, and I prepared a speech that I'm not gonna, I think it's mostly been covered. The only thing I'd like to say is that I understand that the designation of this property under neighborhood infill has been, I guess, grandfathered in, even though it's 3 times the size of a neighborhood infill property, or almost 3 times the size. I feel like if that's the case, then they should not be allowed to clear cut more than 10 acres because the neighborhood infill designation is for 10 acres or less. The project does not meet the standard. It's high-density homes next to large lot properties with no respect for existing patterns, which I know you have heard. It checks the zoning boxes on paper, but it violates the intent and spirit of our land development code. I think it would set a dangerous precedent, allowing incompatible high-intensity development to erode the neighborhood character across the county. We're not against growth, we're just against unbalanced growth, and we respectfully request that you consider denying this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robeson. Any further public speakers? Anybody else want to add public comment? Got a taker. Okay. I think they're both on, either
Okay.
one.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Dewey Destin, Dewey Destin. My sister and I own the 14-acre parcel directly to the west and adjoining this parcel. I would note that both our 14 acres and this 28 acres were part of the original property that were owned by my grandparents and the applicant's grandparents. They purchased it in 1948. They lived on that parcel, as did my aunt and uncle, for quite a number of years. Just a couple of brief comments. Up front, I'd say we have no opposition, and in fact speak in favor of the development. Compatibility standard is a very nebulous one, I understand, but it would appear from the analysis I just heard from, I believe, Mr. Serna, that the only way to be compatible with undeveloped property that is adjacent to your undeveloped property would be to remain undeveloped. That is both illogical and irrational. And as far as the compatibility also goes, it appears the most valuable property within the 1/4 mile or the waterfront lots that are down on the bay, and they are almost all 1/2 acre or less, which is comparable to the density of this particular parcel. And I would talk about also the stormwater retention. I'd like to point out that there are over 1,100 feet of mosquito control / stormwater retention ditches on this property that are 20 feet wide with a 25-foot buffer attached to them. All total, this property contains between 50 and 70,000 square feet of stormwater retention besides and above, beyond what they are proposing to put in. And so this parcel, because of the stormwater ditches and community mosquito control ditches, actually is keeping hundreds of acres surrounding them dry. And that was all put on this property voluntarily. So I think they've done their duty to the stormwater. Other than that, Your Honor, I would have nothing else to say other than I understand the neighbors' frustration with the clear cutting and the clustering. Unfortunately, these things are required by the stormwater requirements of the county, and I don't know how you can put less than 2 units per acre on these properties without doing that. And less than 2 acres is quite compatible with all the surrounding average areas. Thank you.
Mr. Destin.
Excuse me, I am Loretta, Loretta, Lewis, Lewis. I am McKenna Robson. I did not plan to speak today. Excuse me. This property's been in my family since 1948. My grandparents bought it. They lived here. My parents lived here. I lived here. I went to high school here. I have roots here just as deep or deeper than anyone else. We've been paying taxes on this property for over 80 years. I have vested landowner rights. We started this with many developers coming to us and wanting to build, as I could build as many as 224 homes. We decided that was not the proper thing to do. They say we do not compromise. We have compromised down to 53 homes. I believe that is compromise. We have given Dewberry Engineering and Trayton Homes have worked to make this a beautiful place. Now, I did not come to any of these people when they bought their property, when they built their houses, whatever they did. I did not complain. I did not say a word to any of them. It was their property. I have vested rights as a property owner, paid taxes for over 80 years again. I come here every year, although I do not live here. I live in Mississippi. I come here all the time. I visit my cousins. I'm a vested person, born in Florida. So this is very frustrating to me that I'm having to fight with people that I believe don't have the right to tell me what I can do with my property when I am considering the best that I can to make it right for everyone. They would not be happy unless I said I am not doing anything with it. Thank you for your time, Your Honor. I appreciate it.
Hello, Your Honor. My name is Mindy Moore, Mindy Moore. I am a resident of Walton County for 20 years. I moved here in 2005. And in 2014, I had a 5-acre property over on Thompson Road. And I'm appalled at how the rules and regulations have changed from my experience there building my personal residence and the development that's going on next to my new residence over on East Nursery on the area that this property is going on. In 2014, on my 5 acres, I wanted to build a single-family property, single-family home, and I was told that I had to mitigate or not touch the last 2 acres of my property in order to allow for that single-family home. There's a pond on that property as well, and I sat in Tim Brown's office, and he told me that I wasn't to use anything mechanical to maintain the property around the pond, that I could only use hand property because it was environmentally sensitive, and it was some of it was wetlands, and so I was to take care of it. And I thought that was a little extreme, but I was all for the environment. But to see this development, to go from my house where I could only use hand tools to to maintain the pond, and then to turn around and see this development clear cutting of 19 acres, the rules and regulations change from one property, single property owner, to big developments. It just depends on who you are to where this nebulous idea of compatibility comes into play. There's too much room to wiggle around here. And it just seems to be that whoever has the most money in their pockets are the ones that win out. So it's frustrating for us as single family residents in the area to watch this play out when the rules that apply to us don't apply to them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. All right. Any more public comment? Yes, sir.
Todd Martin, TODD-MARTIN. I don't have a speech like a lot of these people do, but just wanted to voice my opinion on, I live in across the street from Andy. Water is a big issue. I mean, they say it's doing its job, but it's not. I mean, we've been here through 2 storms where it's flooded our street. I had to share a ditch that I created with my neighbors so it drains down towards the bay, or else our backyards would be flooded all the time. So water is a problem down there. Keeping in consistency with the way the other houses are in the neighborhood and stuff. We moved down here because we lived in a planned community, and all the houses close to each other, it just didn't work. And we moved here to have all the trees, to have the nice property. I walk these streets every day, and to go through the neighborhoods that have the trees to the neighborhoods who don't, it's just not the same. And the more we get of those, Nellie is full of those 10-acre parcels. Like they said, if you approve this one, it's not going to allow, or it's going to allow those other ones to come through. And it's not that we're opposed to building, it's just keep it in with the standards. We had to obey by the rules. Everybody else should. And there's no reason why we should change those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Anyone else?
I'm Christopher Flow, F-L-O-W. I live on 171 Joy Lane and 191 Joy Lane, which is close property, right on the bay. Acreage is like, I think, 0.5 or whatever. My house is on 0.5 acre. My sister's on 0.75. Margaret Landry's down the street. All our properties along the bay, big houses or small houses, mine, on big lots. And that's how we like it down there. Water's gonna be an issue down there because they're just on the other side from us. And I've been there 15, 20 years. During the storms, Joy Lane, water's up to here from the bay coming in. Not from the rain, but from the rain and the bay coming in. So the incompatibility is I've got an issue with. All the little cluster houses coming up for the last 20 years. Down from us on Indian Woman, there's several. And all the apartments on Chet Holly going down towards Nellie. Incredible. It's horrible.
Thank you, Mr. Flo. Anyone else? All right, then we'll close the up. Oh, go ahead. Okay, come on up. Let me put on the record who's doing this because I should have done that last time. Sir, go ahead.
I'm Timothy Acero.
Right. And Mr. Acero,
Mike Sayward. Mike Sayward.
Mike Sayward is giving you his 3 minutes. All
Yeah,
right,
he's just another neighbor that lives right down the road from the subject property. I just wanted to say, a lot of the issue here is the clear cutting and the concentrating of homes on this property. And as the applicant is stating, the only way that they can make the project financially viable is by a development like this. And it's financially viable because the homeowner or the landowner, as just stated, that came up here, has about $10 million coming to her. So I would get emotional too if I had $10 million on the line. But that was her parents' property. That was something that was...
Let's try to keep it to the facts and not emotions.
Okay. Well, the facts are that there's a high amount of money going to the landowner if this project gets approved. So the whole basis is the project gets approved, then they will buy it for a whole lot of money. The thing is that if we're going to be concerned about the community, concerned about creating a legacy for your family, whatever, couldn't there just be a reduction in the cost? That's a very simple fix. When we met with Dewberry, when they had their public meeting, we presented as a community lots of ideas where that would be compatible and have community support. There are subdivisions in the neighborhood, Cessna Landing, for instance, kept all of their trees, elevated the properties, beautiful subdivision in character with the neighborhood. We proposed that. They said no because they want to have more properties on there to make it financially viable. Well, they're trying to get over this massive nugget that they have to spend right at the outset just to buy the property. But if somebody gave me $5 million, I'd be very happy. I don't know if that's emotional or facts. That's a fact. I would be very happy. I don't need $10 million. And if that would make that project now viable for compatibility, wouldn't that be a simple resolve? So there's a lot of emotion involved in this. But again, if there was a whole lot of money coming to me on the line, I would get emotional too. But $5 million sounds pretty good and could then allow that community to have compatibility, which others do, and the whole neighborhood would get behind it. So it's really focuses down to greed and how much people are trying to suck out of this land. So that's my thought based on what's been said here today. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? I'm going to close the public comments section. All right, we've got one hand. Come on up.
My name is Barbara Breerwood, Breerwood. I grew up in a subdivision of New Orleans, but it's not part of that bowl that New Orleans is. It was actually a lot of wetlands. And when my parents built their house in Metairie, there was no flooding. Now there's flooding all the time. It is because all the land in Metairie was clear cut. And if an owner says they should be able to do whatever they want with their own property, that sounds great because it's their own property. But if you clear cut property, it will affect everyone else in the area because you're losing the absorption from the trees. And so that's what happens. It isn't just their property. It is affecting many other properties. And so I would just like to say, please don't end up like Metairie. The anniversary of Katrina was just a few days ago, and the way the flooding stopped was that the floodwater was the same as Lake Pontchartrain. Nothing else stopped the water. The water came from under the levees. It didn't breach the levees like everybody thinks. It went under the levees. And so I just don't want that to happen to Walton County. This is a lovely place, and it has established trees, and they should stay because they do a service. They definitely do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Breerwood. All right, I'm going to close the public comment section now. Thank you all for your time and for taking the time to make all those comments. Mr. Tatum wanted to offer some additional evidence at this time, I believe.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I just wanted to bring up a rebuttal witness to Mr. Cerna's analysis of our analysis.
Okay.
So I'm going to call Tina Ekblad back to the stand
Okay.
or podium.
Welcome back, Ms. Ekblad. I'm just going to remind you, you remain under oath, and you may proceed.
All right, Ms. Ekblad, did you have any rebuttal for Mr. Cerna's report?
I did.
How will you explain those issues to us?
Sure. So I think there's a couple of things to start with. The first is Mr. Cerna's own admission that this is not a compatibility analysis that evaluates the details of the project. Rather, it was, in my version of what he said was, it's a commentary on the compatibility analysis that I prepared. I think that it's important to note a couple of things as it relates to what he said, and that is under the findings. In paragraph 2, he says, on 3 sides of the subject property are 3 large undeveloped parcels that are zoned conservation residential. You heard the testimony from myself as well as the members of the public that that is not accurate. We have conservation residential on one side, the west, which is a density of 1 dwelling unit to 2.5 acres. We have conservation residential on a portion of our southern boundary at 2 dwelling units to 1 acre. And then to our east, we have neighborhood infill, which is up to a maximum of 8 dwelling units. And then the southeast, across East Nursery, is also residential preservation. And so when we talk about the rest of the findings in the analysis and the sizes of the properties and what is or could be there, we have to consider the existing development and then also the development potential. So in my substantive comments, I mentioned the objective of the residential future land use and how that exists on the east, north, and in the surrounding area to the west of the property, and it is for an area in transition to a suburban density. And then I talked about the objective of the conservation residential future land use, which indicates that we would anticipate residential subdivisions to be developed to these maximum densities. And then also what we see is a wide swing in the density pattern of existing and potential development. If you'll just permit me a minute to find that slide. Yeah, so that existing density range kind of varies from half a unit to the acre all the way up to 6 units to the acre within that surrounding area. And then also Mr. Cerna suggests that the compatibility analysis that was prepared does not provide a complete analysis of both the developed and undeveloped parcels within a 1/4 acre. And I want to note that on pages 9, 10, 11, and 12, not only do I provide an analysis of the existing subdivisions on the each side of the subject property, there is also a paragraph regarding the remaining properties, how they're developed, what size they are, and then also a comparison to the undeveloped properties. And I did it this way because these properties are not platted. They seem to be divided by legal description through sale. And so they couldn't be quite as neatly organized as the platted subdivisions, but that analysis was provided. And then he also suggested that the pattern of our development needed to reflect more in line with the pattern of development of these larger parcels with a single family unit. And I want to go back. Can I get my PowerPoint back up if that's possible? Thank you. And I want to go back to what the comprehensive plan requires us to do, and that is to cluster the development pattern to effectuate the preservation of wetlands, which we have done, a central stormwater management system to address the flooding that you've heard is a concern, to provide appropriate buffering to the adjacent uses, which we have done. And I want to note that those buffers, from the perspective of what will be there, exceeds the land development code requirements because we are maintaining that existing mature vegetation. And then we're also taking into account those mosquito control ditches, which, as I understand, have an additional benefit to stormwater management. And meets the county's other requirements for preserving water quality in the bay and also providing open space. And so if we do not provide development, or excuse me, we do not design the development in this pattern, we are not consistent with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan anticipates that clustered subdivisions, due to the other benefits that they provide in terms of the infrastructure and environmental concerns, are appropriate. And so I wanted to point that out in relationship to his analysis that, you know, his findings, generally speaking, are not correct regarding the surrounding zoning. They are not correct regarding the detail that is provided in the compatibility analysis. And respectfully, I disagree with his finding that we are incompatible with the surrounding development on the premise of the requirements of the comprehensive plan, but then also the testimony I provided regarding the lot sizes and densities in the surrounding area. Questions?
Thank you, Ms. Ekblad.
All right, this time I will call Richard Funtner back up to the stand.
All right, Mr. Funtner, I'll just remind you that you remain under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Funtner, do you have an opinion as to why there is flooding in this general area of the county?
Yes, I mean, I have not done any kind of analysis of the overall area, other than what's limited to the site itself. But based on knowledge from other areas that flood, you know, this area is low-lying. There's no regional stormwater management facilities. A lot of the area was maybe added roadway or drainage features before there was a standard in place for how to design such features. That would be my opinion.
And in your opinion, will our project exacerbate or improve the flooding, or leave it as is?
Well, based on the FEMA flood zone, you know, you're in an AE7, AE8. The road, I believe East Nursery Road is at an elevation 5 or so. So most likely it is flooding in conditions already. Based on the requirements in the Walton County Land Development Code, the design guidelines we needed to meet for floodplain compensation, stormwater quality, floodplain abatements. This project meets all the requirements and should not exacerbate any issues.
And did you, in your preparation for today, create an exhibit that shows the undisturbed uplands that we have?
Yes.
And is this that exhibit?
That is.
And this is in the record.
I think it's Exhibit 10.
It would be applicant's Exhibit 10. Can you tell us what this shows?
So what it is showing is the undisturbed uplands, which are in green there, so which is 5.16 acres. And then you've got the undisturbed wetlands other than the 0.0026 acres for the stormwater outfall, which is 3.39 acres. And then you've got the other area that are stormwater features with either drainage swells or ponds themselves, and landscape features, which are 7.70 acres. So as you can see that we've clustered the developments. We're preserving the natural vegetation on the eastern property line, part of the eastern property line, most of the western, about 82 feet, I believe, to the actual first lot there. And then we're also preserving the wetlands on the north end of the site.
So is it true that we are not clear cutting the entire site?
We are not clear cutting the entire site now, and we cannot based on the code as well and all the requirements in the
And
LDC.
is this a heavily wooded area at the moment?
I'm sure it's wooded, mixed woods, but I mean, we're preserving the buffers on the sides.
All right, that's all I have.
Does the county have anything for this witness? No, I don't. All right, I forgot to ask if you had questions for Ms. Ekblad. We can recall her if you do. All right, thank you.
All right, if I could just do a short little close.
Sure.
Okay. We did hear a lot of, of concerns from the public today. Our only opposition expert is Mr. Cerna's report. And even by his own admission, he did not do an analysis of our project to determine if it was compatible or not. He simply compared our compatibility analysis against the 2015 director directive for how to perform compatibility analysis, which, per Mr. Schoen's testimony, is not utilized today by the planning department. So with that, and given the staff's findings that this project is compatible with the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan and compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, we would ask that you issue a proposed order finding that we are approving the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tatum. Would you like to make a closing as well? Okay, all right. All right, is there anything further? Okay, all right, then we will adjourn. Thank you all for the time today.
Goodbye.